When I see new roguelike games hit the Steam store, I'm usually intrigued to check them out, but usually don't expect to be that impressed as the genre has become flooded after the success of titles like Binding of Isaac and Spelunky. Full Mojo Rampage has surprised me though, as you can tell over-the-top games truly created something that stands out from the rest of the bunch through its unique Voodoo theme, great graphical style, and its unique gameplay features. Let's take a look at each aspect of this roguelike meets twin-stick shooter and see what exactly put a hex of fun on me. While there's not really a strong ongoing story here as expected, there is a strong theme of voodoo going on, which is well woven into the game as you progress through the light story elements involving you helping out voodoo gods. Just about every aspect of the game does a great job including this voodoo theme, which you'll see in the gameplay aspects mentioned soon. The strength of this theme was one of the aspects of the game that really made it stand out for me, because a lot of roguelikes out there will just go with a generic overall theme which just makes it blend in with the rest of the bunch. Before we hop into explaining Full Mojo Rampage, it must be explained that at its core it is a roguelike, thus meaning it is meant to be replayed over and over again as you progress through randomized dungeons and areas. In Full Mojo Rampage it pulls a page from Rogue Legacy's more roguelite formula, however, and it allows players to make some progression each time as they play through a leveling system that allows them to boost stats of their choice, and through collectible items called pins that can be equipped before play sessions and even upgraded to give very noticeable character buffs. When it comes to the style of gameplay and control, it feels very familiar to a twin-stick shooter like Geometry Wars, where the left stick controls your character and the right stick aims and fires your shots. While the game feels great on a controller, it does feel more suited for a mouse and keyboard, however, as it's much easier to aim and inspect items with your mouse. This also makes it much easier using spells and other items with keyboard hotkeys. This leads us to the character customization, which allows you to not only customize your appearance, but abilities and statistics as well. When you first start, you'll only have a few masks to change your appearance with, and one parent Loa, which are essentially the classes of the game. Each of these parent Loas provides 2 unique spells to the player, along with either a passive bonus or a unique mechanic involving a rampage bar that fills up as you kill foes. Most parent Loas provide you with a consumable item called a Loa gift when this meter reaches full, and provide helpful effects such as creating a healing area. The 2 spells that each parent Loa provide typically are role and class defining, and I found each one to be very unique. Some will focus on a support role like Loco, who has an attack speed buff and a healing ability to help out friends in co-op, while others like Ling Lan Sao take on a tank role, being able to taunt enemies and create a shield to protect himself. There are currently 8 total parent Loas to choose from, and they plan to add more in free updates. When it comes to masks, they are completely cosmetic, and they help distinguish yourself from your co-op buddies. Many of these masks have great and humorous designs, even some including special game referencing ones that can be unlocked through a secret code system. Outside of the customization through parent Loas, there is also the previously mentioned leveling up and stat distribution, along with the pin system where players can further buff up and customize their voodoo shaman. Each time you level up, you'll be able to choose either health, damage, movement speed, or attack speed as an increase. Health seemed to be the most valuable statistic early on, as I found myself getting hit a lot and wasn't really familiar with the game and its enemies just yet. The pins are another awesome feature which will allow you to power up your character even more. You'll start off without any of these, and you must randomly find them as you play. You'll start off being able to equip a small amount of pins, but as you level up, this amount will increase, allowing you to flesh out your playstyle a bit more. These pins provide buffs ranging from more health, a chance to poison on hit, to more non-combat benefits like finding more gold. They can also be upgraded with the gold you find to further increase the effects of the pin. There are a decent amount of these to collect, which should take players several hours to find them all, depending if they play solo or co-op. While Full Mojo Rampage hosts several modes for players to try out, the meat of the game are the quests, which throw players into a randomized world map with several randomized areas and dungeons on them. Players progress through each of these to reach an eventual final boss. On the way, each of these randomized levels will pull from a small handful of different themed areas, including a fiery hot volcano, a spooky mansion, and even a haunted brewery. I love the look and style of each of these themes, but I was still left hoping to see more. I suppose there is potential for more area themes to be added in the future. Each of these area types will have a specific quest to complete as well, which is typically either collecting a certain amount of items, with one humorous example being spider butts, and other times it's just destroying portals. While I did like the inclusion of little quest events like this, there just wasn't much variety to them, as they all felt too similar and basic, besides a handful of the quests in the later half of the game, which were actually quite a bit more unique and changed things up. During these levels you'll find plenty of loot and power-ups as well, which is a key element of any roguelike game. Full Mojo Rampage offers their own unique random taste of this as well through items called Mojos, Wands, and their standard inventory items. Mojos are equipable items which you can hold a limited number of that can be increased during play sessions by picking up a specific item. They provide a variety of different statistical boosts and other random effects that will make each play session a bit more interesting and fun. Next up are the Wands, which are essentially temporary standard attack replacements that allow you to do things like shoot lasers, lightning bolts, and fire, and even have random special affixes to power them up in varying ways. Lastly, there are the standard inventory items which go into limited space slots and include something as basic as a healing potion to extra fun cooldown abilities like a disco ball that makes enemies dance. Overall, I've been pretty satisfied with the variety of items in the game, which there are over 100 of, not including the fact that many of these items will have nearly infinite randomization with their affixes. While these limited mojo slots do seem to prevent you from becoming as powerful and unstoppable as you could in other roguelikes, it is actually possible thanks to one of the special rooms you can find called a Mojo Mixer. The Mojo Mixer allows you to combine the effects of two Mojos into one. Through the use of these and the other Mojo inventory expanders, you can end up turning yourself into a voodoo god of sorts. Other random special room encounters include shops, chest rooms, and shrines which can sometimes offer insane deals such as having 10 times your current HP but not being able to heal. One area that I found to be extremely fun, hectic, and challenging were the game's boss fights, which will pit you against some strange and terrifying foes that sometimes leave very little room for error, with very few safe spots as the game may suddenly become comparable to a bullet hell shooter. As challenging as some of these fights were, I never found them to be too unfair, and I can tell they planned them out and tested them properly to create an encounter that was definitely beatable without taking much or any damage at all if you were careful and skilled enough. Some of these fights might require you to tweak your stats for some better performance, however, as bosses like the Wormlings are very speedy and will require some quick movement to keep away from them. After beating each of the main quests, you'll unlock a new difficulty for them, which there are many of, allowing for plenty of progression and replay value. I've noticed significant changes in one of the harder difficulties as well, such as enemies randomly dropping bombs when they die, and even running into a challenging boss that I never ran into in the normal difficulty. This boss may have just been a random appearance, however, that can show up in any difficulty. Outside of the main quest, there are several other modes for players to check out. Those looking for more PvE content can check out the survival modes, which include a special 30-wave Halloween event version, and a unlimited mode that allows you to tackle as many waves as you can to mark your place on the leaderboard. Also available is a daily quest, which changes every day, and players can compete for the fastest time and have their name featured in-game the following day if they are number 1. The game also features several PvP modes, which while they aren't nearly as fun as the main course, are a nice extra departure from the typical gameplay seen in a roguelike. Multiplayer is one feature I've been hoping to see more of in the roguelike genre, and lately developers are starting to pick up on this and include it in their game. I've had little to no issues with lag in my online co-op sessions in the game, which honestly felt close to what I'd see in a local session. Sadly, however, the local co-op in the game does not offer the full experience for other players, where they simply will be helping out player 1 without making any actual progression at all. Some players may also dislike that when playing in co-op you won't be sharing most item drops. The only thing that appears to be shared are medals, which are a special currency used for unlocking new parent loas and masks. For this reason, players will want to properly communicate to make sure each player is getting an equal amount of mojos and items so no one gets left behind in terms of power. The benefit of playing co-op is having multiple shared lives and being able to resurrect other players, so that is the trade-off when it comes to everyone not having their own individual loot. While many roguelikes out there aim for a more 2D retro style when it comes to the graphics, Full Mojo Rampage offers its own unique 3D graphics art style which really stands out. It's very cartoony, but at the same time it's very detailed, and the lighting and shadow effects are actually quite impressive in some of the areas. I haven't encountered any performance issues or crashes either, which led to a frustration-free experience with the game. While the sound effects are average affair throughout the game, the music really stands out as the soundtrack comes from talented industry veteran composer Alistair Lindsay. Those who haven't heard of him, he is known for composing the music for many titles including Prison Architect, Lost Wind, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and even helped with the rare classic Jet Force Gemini. The music has that right balance of fun and horror in each of the area's tracks, which is perfectly fitting for the style of hectic, fun co-op gameplay. Some developers don't realize the importance of a good soundtrack sometimes, as it really does have a major influence on the overall enjoyment of it. Over the Top Games made a great choice when recruiting Alistair Lindsay to compose the score for their game. Full Mojo Rampage will easily end up in one of my favorite indie games of this year, and definitely will sit up at the top of my favorite roguelike games list along with titles like Risk of Rain and Binding of Isaac. It offers a lot of variety in each of the play sessions thanks to the variety of character customization due to parent loas and pins, along with the mojos and other items you'll gather in each run. The inclusion of solid and functioning online co-op was the icing on the cake too, as the game is significantly more fun and entertaining with a friend or two. Between this great gameplay, the fun Voodoo theme, and the great art style and music, I found myself under a hex that led me to an enjoyable experience with this roguelike gem. My gripes with the game were mostly minor, simply wanting more of what the developer had already presented me with, and we can probably expect that in future updates. I'd also like to see an endless quest mode where you're presented with a forever growing quest map that keeps chaining for as long as you can survive. I highly recommend that any roguelike fan out there check this game out, as it is available for a very affordable and great value price of $12.99. I don't believe players will be disappointed with the amount of content they get for this price, and for the fact that the developer is planning to release free content updates. If you aren't a fan of the roguelike gameplay formula, then sadly you probably won't find more than a few hours of enjoyment out of this game. But if you do, then you are in for a treat. It's also a great entry point for the genre as well, joining the ranks of games like Binding of Isaac, Rogue Legacy, and Risk of Rain by offering easy-to-understand gameplay that still has a good amount of depth. The Game Cavern gives Full Mojo Rampage a 4.5 out of 5.